I get my itchy nose. Anyway, so forgiveness. So one of the things I've noticed in the collective energy right now is I've noticed that people are really angry. There's a lot of anger out there. There's a lot of fear out of there. There's a lot of people who are living and thinking about their lives in a very kind of conditional way of thinking, which is, and you guys know, you've been here with me long enough to know the Magic Mondays, that I really believe that, our thoughts affect our actions and our choices. And so what's happening is, I think a lot of people in the world today are really in what I call victim mentality. And I don't mean for it to sound quite as traumatic as it is. And what I really mean by that is victim mentality means that I am not accepting. Victims mentality means I'm not saying me personally, but not accepting for responsibility. I'm not accepting responsibility of the things that are happening in my life. I am not taking the extra thought process to be out there that my vibe attracts my tribe, that I may be, by my thoughts and my beliefs and my actions, I may be creating situations and experiences and people by drawing it in that is not actually the most resourceful and helpful for me. Now, none of us do this consciously. This is not a part of the conscious mind. This is all part of the unconscious mind. This is what we are running as our programming in our background. And 95% of what we do every single day, we are doing in our unconscious mind as opposed to our conscious mind, okay? So one of the things that's happened is people are just really angry and they're not patient. And, I have so many friends of mine that are still in the service industry, that are going back in the service industry. And I can't believe how rude people are at restaurants and other things. They're just really feeling and experiencing it. So with that going on, one of the things that's been coming up in the readings with just the collective conscious, in addition to the individual conscious, right? The inner self, is this need and this just sense of needing to do more forgiveness work. And so forgiveness is, it's like, yeah. We all know, right? We all know forgiveness. We all know, it's good to forgive somebody, right? It's like, duh, we were taught that as children. It's pervasive in our culture that you want to forgive. But what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about real forgiveness and what forgiveness actually means. Okay. So hopefully if this is good with you, do the hearts and let me know that you're on board with the topic today and that you're good with this. If not, I'm sorry, that's what we're doing anyway. So, but here's where we're at, okay? So one of the things about forgiveness that I was thinking about today, as I was, going over this and everything else, is that particularly in Western culture, right? And particularly in America, Deborah, I know you're in Canada. I haven't spent much time in Canada, so I don't really know that, but I do know in America right now, we have a pervasive cultural conditioning when it comes to forgiveness. And it's really kind of based in the Judeo-Christian belief system, right? So Christianity belief system. So we kind of all know, as a collective conscious, we all know, the story of Jesus and Christ and all of the other things in terms of forgiveness. We know the messages in Christianity about forgiveness and how Jesus did that, right? So there is that going on. But what I don't want to talk about that, really. I just want to bring that up for framework, right? To chunk it up and to have bigger framework, I want to bring that up. And what I really want you to do today is I want you to take that knowledge, that unconscious cultural conditioning and knowledge of what we in the West know about forgiveness, and I want you to just shove it aside for a little bit, okay? So I just want you to take it and move it out of the way, and I want you to just kind of have an open mind, and I just want you to think about forgiveness in a much different sense and a much bigger sense of forgiveness. So we're going to talk about it not in that small setting. We're going to talk about it in a larger communication, a large concept, a larger language is what we're going to talk about. Okay. So forgiveness, what I have learned. So there was a book that I read, to go back. There's a book that I read years ago, and it's from Joe Vitale, and it's called Ground Zero. and it's about Ho'oponopono. And you guys have heard me talk about Ho'oponopono. And it is basically the Hawaiian forgiveness practice. That's what it is. And it means, Ho'oponopono means the code of forgiveness, or to make things right. That's what it is, to make right. So not so in the Hawaiian belief system, right? So that's an indigenous belief system. So the Hawaiian belief system of indigenous peoples, just like the indigenous Native Americans, just like in Peru of the shamans, just like the other indigenous belief systems, not the Judeo-Christian, but the other indigenous belief systems, their feeling of forgiveness is that as human beings, we are always learning, growing, changing, and we are making mistakes. So when we make mistakes, we are harming or hurting other people. Now, the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono, they even have different categories of hurts, right? Upsets and hurts. So it can be as simple as, you're not paying attention, you're going through the grocery store and you just knock somebody in the side. And then, normally in America, we say, oh, I'm sorry, or excuse me. So that's a transgression, right? Because we didn't mean to hurt somebody. We didn't mean to knock them over the side, right? So that's one thing. And then it goes up from there. It goes to personal interactions that you have with somebody where hurt words. So let's say it's with a family member, right? A spouse, a child, sisters, brothers, family members, whatever. And we get into an argument with them. And then there's hurt words exchanged. And then there's upsets and there's things caused by that and bad feelings. So that's the other level of transgression, or the other level of being out of alignment with yourself, right? So that's what that is about. And of course, there are bigger transgressions, obviously, even in all indigenous cultures, which is, horrific kind of crimes, murder, rape, incest, harming children, all those kind of things. So there, it goes up to all levels of that, okay? So in the Hawaiian culture, Pono is when you make it right, right? So you are right within yourself. You are congruent in your energy. You are congruent in your belief system, your actions, and your choices is what that means to be Pono, okay? It's energy. So for most indigenous cultures, energy is not woo-woo. It is not out there. It is not anything to make fun of. Energy is energy, and they recognize it, they see it, they feel it, they work with it. So, they work with energy. So in the Hawaiian culture, to be Pono is to be right in your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, your higher self, and then your connection to your higher power, whatever you want to call that higher power. They have a word for it. I think it's Mili, I'm not sure exactly, but they have a name for God, right? That's their higher power that they do. So that is what it is. And then what they have, in Hawaiian culture, they don't even have the word I'm sorry. It doesn't even exist. So there is no word I'm sorry. You can't just knock anybody and say I'm sorry. In Hawaiian culture, you actually need to say, please forgive me. And they use the word forgive me. So I have been changing my language. It's been really interesting since I've been doing this work deeper. I've been changing my language where I try really hard these days not to say I'm sorry. I actually say, please forgive me. And so back to how I learned this. So I learned this a long time ago, Ho'oponopono. I learned this a while ago by reading Joe Vitale's book called Ground Zero. And it's really about the studies and the scientific. So the Western culture came in and did some scientific studies on Ho'oponopono and the power of Ho'oponopono and forgiveness. So, when the non-native people came to Hawaii, when the white people came to Hawaii, there wasn't rampant death, disease, obesity, diabetes. There wasn't all of this stuff. Like, they lived pretty well and pretty simply and pretty beautifully and in harmony with nature. And, part of the reason why is because of their spiritual belief system, which is called Huna. their spiritual belief system of Huna that kept them really just grounded and at peace with themselves. So Ground Zero, there's been a lot of work, and in Ground Zero, there's studies on this. And if you guys want to read this book, it's really a fun book. Okay. Now, here's one of the things I know. So from Ground Zero, the way you say Ho'oponopono is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. That is the Ho'oponopono version. And it's like super simple, right? I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can just say that to anybody. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. I went around for years and years and years just using that really, really simple phrase. But when I took my NLP class, my neuro-linguistic programming training, and I did that in November from Dr. Matt James, one of the things that we learned in there, because Dr. Matt James has been working, he was born and raised in Hawaii, he's been working with Huna and he's been working with it. So we did a Ho'oponopono ceremony during the NLP training, and it rocked my world. Like it was so much fuller and well-rounded and profound on me than just the simple, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So it was this very profound experience that I had. And oops, you guys, my chair just went down. So sorry about that, but I just got really tiny. Hang on a second, let me move it back up. So it was like emphasize profound experience. Okay, so I had this really profound experience. So, and let me give you a little bit, I'll try to give it to you in a nutshell, but basically I have had a hurt, right? I have had a person who I have had a hurt with for a long time. And it was intense. I mean, it was a very intense relationship. They were intense hurts. They were a lot of pain. And I definitely got into victim mode. I mean, I definitely had some wrong actions. In my opinion, even to this day, I still feel like I had some wrong actions against myself. And it was tough, and for a long time, I was in that mentality where I was the one that was being wronged and not this other person. But I couldn't see. I was so into my head. I was so into my stories. I was so into my emotions. I was so into my humanness that for years and years and years and years, I couldn't see that I was wronging this other person as well. It was a two-way street, right? She was wronging me, I was wronging her. We were just in this relationship, and that's just what it was. And that's actually when I kind of found Ho'oponopono, was when this relationship was coming to a natural end. I was really struggling. I mean, really, really, really struggling with this hurt and this upset that I was carrying around. Like, I felt bad. I would think about this and I'd immediately get stomach aches and my blood pressure would rise. And I was out of alignment with myself. I was not anywhere near in Pono whenever the thoughts of this person came up, right? Like, it was really angst ridden. It was really hard. So I kind of found this book and I started doing the simple Ho'oponopono, the simple, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I started just saying that over and over and over again. I mean, I would say that 100 times a day. Every time the thought of this person would come to my head, I would say it over and over and over. And it did help. It really did. And then I did a lot of work on understanding relationships. I had to really do a lot of personal development work, and I did it. And I even, at the end of it, when the relationship finally was done and completely over, I still had this core, this really hard feeling inside of me, like a princess in the pea. I just, no matter what I could do, I just really couldn't get rid of it. So I worked with my friend Denise Stargazer. You guys have all met her. We did that class together. And I worked with Denise, and she did a shamanic extraction on me. And it was really interesting because in her shamanic extraction, it really wasn't about this particular person. It was things that went back in my genealogy and my ancestry. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But it was a very interesting thing. And it was so helpful, right? But even with that, I still had this hard little tiny princess in the pea. Like, I just couldn't get rid of it. I just couldn't get rid of it no matter what I did. And I've come so far. I really have. And then I went to the NLP training in November, and we did it as a group. It was a group release ceremony with Ho'oponopono. And I wasn't planning to do this person. I was planning to do a family member when they said to bring somebody to mind. And this person came to mind, and it was incredible. And I got done with this in like 15 minutes. All of a sudden, the energy of it released, and it's gone. It is absolutely gone. And I have complete forgiveness around this person. Now, here's what I want to get to when I was talking about put aside the Judeo-Christian thought of it, because I told you about the Hawaiian part, and then I gave you my own personal experience. I want to get back to this right now. So here's the really important thing that I want you to think about and expand your mind when you think about forgiveness, okay? And put that other knowing what you know, put that aside and come to it with open mind. Forgiveness does not mean, okay, in the truest of sense, forgiveness does not mean we absolve that other person of the pain and the upset and the harm that was caused to us. We don't forget about the trauma. We don't shove it under the rug. We don't just say it's okay when it's not okay. Like, we really deal with the emotional baggage and the emotional pain and trauma and upset inside of us of those traumatic experiences, the traumatic relationship we had with that person. So we don't forget, okay? Forgiveness does not mean forget. Forgiveness does not even means you absolve them. You know, you're not Jesus Christ, right? We're not that person. It is not our job to absolve them of their sins. Every single one of us do whatever we're going to do, and whatever the other side does, whatever that belief system, whatever happens on the other side in terms of our own transgressions, we don't even know what that is, truthfully, right? We've been taught what it is in religion, but we don't know what it is. But the thing about that is, it's not our jobs to absolve anybody from that pain, okay? It's like, we don't, when we say I forgive you, it doesn't mean I'm never going to stop remembering the hurt that relationship caused. I'm sure for that person, she is never going to stop remembering the hurt that I caused to her. Do you understand? But we can both, I guess, acknowledge the better word. We can both acknowledge the hurt that we caused, and then go through the emotional release of what we need to do, the work that we need to do on ourselves to be able to release the charge, to release the emotional baggage around it. So forgiveness just means that you let it go, okay? You just let it go. It doesn't mean that you forget. It doesn't mean that a horrific thing happened to you and you were supposed to just ignore that this horrific thing happened to you, okay? And not for myself, but I do want to say this for anybody else out there who might be watching. If you had a traumatic childhood, if you've had traumatic events happen to you, if you've been in a narcissistic relationship and you have really had some issues and some things have happened to you, I really want to encourage you to make sure that you get traditional psychotherapy, or that you get EMDR, or you get something, because if you have experienced any type of real trauma, that is emotional baggage, and it is in you. It is in you physiologically, it is in your heart, it is in your spirit, your mind, body, soul. Those traumatic events stay in us. And the people who don't go through therapy, the people who don't work on, the people who don't release it, that sticks with you and you get physical illness from it. It really does stem from it. So I want to encourage anybody who has really had emotional trauma, make sure that you do that work, okay? This work isn't easy, you guys. There's nothing about it that's easy, but it's magic in the fact that it is transformative and that you can heal and you can get through it. And some of the most powerful stories in our world, in our literature, in our movies, in our life, are people who have gone through incredible things, horrific events, you know? locked up. Look at Nelson Mandela. Look at that. Holocaust survivors, the people who have gone through incredibly traumatic experiences in their life, and yet they managed to go within, and then they managed to find a way to forgive what happened, not forget, but forgive what happened, so they can be healthy in their lives and move on and go forward and try to live your best life despite, and maybe not even despite what happened to you, but to thrive with what happened to you. And it's really a warrior way of thinking. And the reason why, and again, it's going to make me cry, the reason why this is so incredibly important to me is because it is so empowering, right? It is empowering when we take control of our own health, when we take control of our own healing, our own emotional healing, when we do the shadow work to release our baggage, we are in control of ourselves and our lives and our healing. And we aren't just handing it to somebody else and saying, doctor, give me a pill, therapist, fix me. We are saying, I am worthy. I love myself enough, and I am going to do everything I can to put myself on the path of healing. Okay. And one of the best ways to get there is to do forgiveness work. So this Ho'oponopono, this forgiveness work, this larger platform of it, yes, you can say the quick little, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can say that again and again. Or if you have something going on with you that you really want to let go, or even just like, this doesn't even have to be a perfect person. This could just be malaise. Like you could just be having a tough time from the last, COVID, the last 2 years. You've been alone, you've been isolated. You haven't been able to be loved, or you haven't been able to give yourself a certain amount of self-love because you've been stuck. I'm telling you, Ho'oponopono is a tool that can change the energy. Forgiveness can change the energy, and it is release work that is so incredibly powerful. Okay. Whew, I'm going to take a big deep breath. Okay, so that was my love and learn topic today, and I wanted to teach you that. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I would love to talk about it if you want to talk about it, if you have any questions. And then, we're just I'll be changing the energy to go into the readings pretty soon. Okay. So with that information on what is forgiveness, what is true forgiveness, right? What is it? Forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. I have to tell you that holding on to the pain, not forgiving that other person, it doesn't hurt them. It only hurts us. Now, I believe in energy, so I do believe that they feel it, right? I do believe in quantum entanglement. I do believe that we are all part of the unified field and that we feel each other, right? I know it because when I think of my friends, they call me or email me or something. I know there's quantum entanglement. So by holding that grudge, by holding that hurt, by holding that upset, that person does feel it in some point because you have cords to them. And those cords are still dirty, for lack of a better word. They're not clean cords. So while those cords are there, they still will feel it, but they're not going to get sick from your lack of forgiveness to them. It's us, it's you who's going to get sick from not forgiving them. Okay. So when you can forgive, when you can truly do Ho'oponopono, when you can truly forgive, you are not doing it for the other person. You are doing it for yourself. And you are doing it to make yourself feel better and to get Pono with yourself. And then it's amazing the energetics of this. It really is this is scientific stuff. More and more science is starting to come out with experiments and other things that are starting to validate our energy field. Our bio energy field, if you guys want to look up bioenergy field, it's pretty amazing. Our subtle energy field that we have, we are all transmitting energy. I mean, physical energy, we actually can measure it, right? And so science is catching up with it. They really are. So, it's been Eastern medicine forever. In the Western world, we're starting to really hopefully start to marry the two together better. And that's my area of interest and love. So you can actually, I see when I work with my clients and we do Ho'oponopono and we do forgiveness, it's really interesting because I swear, within anywhere from 2 hours to 72 hours, depending on how long the grudge has been going on, the people will write me and they were like, Jen, you're not going to believe it. I got a phone call out of the blue from my sister. Oh my God, my uncle gave me a birthday present and gave me $50 and he never gives me money, you know? So it does change the energetics of it. It's pretty incredible. Okay. And that was what I wanted to tell you. So forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. It really is. Now, my offering, okay, so because I've been doing this as part of my sessions and the longer sessions, one of the things that I got an intuitive hit last week from my guides and angels was like, Jen, why don't you just do this quicker? Let's see if you can just do a Ho'oponopono session where it's not in an empathic reading, it's not stirring it up and going through all of the other emotional stuff that we're going through. It's just basically the ritual, the ceremony, the session, the performance, whatever you want to call it, and do it in a 30-minute session to be able to do this. So they come in, instead of getting Ho'oponopono as a bonus when it's needed, to specifically come in and have a Ho'oponopono session and do it in the way. So I took what I learned at NLP, and it was amazing, don't get me wrong, but because I already am naturally intuitive and because I already understand Huna and I understand energy flow and I am certified in and practice in it and all those other things, I have taken that and I have tweaked it and tailored it to uniquely my own way of doing Ho'oponopono. And it's a mix of, it's a mix of the Hawaiian practice, from what they do. And it's a mix of Huna, but it is really my own way of kind of working it together. It's my own system that I've done with my guides and angels. So a session, so I'm opening those up. It's a Ho'oponopono session. It's 30 minutes. It is transformative and it's pretty incredible. You go into a light meditative state. So you will be aware, but it's a very light meditative state. And I will walk you through the process. And at the end of it, hopefully, truthfully, you will probably feel like that pee is gone if there's a little one, or that the weight is lifted. The sessions are $65 and I'm giving a code to you guys for $10 off. If you use the code MAGIC when you check out, then you can have it for $10 off. Okay. So, and I'm really hoping that this is going to be just part of my toolbox, my accoutrement of Soul Stir Magic, and that this will take off and people will do it. I'm not putting a time limit on it because I think it's such incredibly important work and such an incredible important tool that I'm just opening up today. So today is the first day of opening it up to book sessions. Okay.